am. I'm at Kuchiching Beach Park, which we went and visited last week with Lindsay when we were learning about our community. Now, the lake is actually a very important part about our community, and I'm going to tell you why. I have someone I'd really like you to meet.
Hi guys, my name is Brett. I work in the community at our Water Filtration Plant. Today I'm going to take you on a tour. Water is very important. Could you imagine turning on the tap and not having any come out? Not a lot of people stop to think about how it gets there or what's done to make sure it's clean and safe. Let's take a look and follow it from the source to your tap. Most of our water here in Orillia comes from Lake Kuchiching. Now the water might look clean and safe, but just because it looks clean doesn't mean it always is. That's where this place comes in. If you've ever been to Kuchiching Park, then you've probably seen this building. This is the water filtration, where we take water from the lake and a couple of wells and turn it into safe, clean drinking water. Now deep in the middle of the lake, there's a giant pipe. This pipe lets the water flow into a tank inside the water filtration plant. We call this the low lift. Don't worry though, there is a screen over the end of the pipe, kind of like a window. It lets water come in, but stops anything big.
This room I'm in is at the back of the plant and it's built above the low lift tank. Here, these pumps suck water up and push it out to the next stage. Along the way, some special chemicals called alum and polymer are added to the water.
These chemicals are important for helping clean our water. Have you ever played with a magnet and noticed how metal things stick to it? Well, these chemicals work in a similar way. They make small things floating in the water stick together and form larger clumps. We call these clumps flocculent, or floc for short.
That's where the next set of tanks get their name from, the floc cells. The floc cells let the water slow down and form those clumps of floc, which are much easier to remove from the water.
From the floc cells, the water then goes to a very important step, filtration. What you're seeing here is the top of one of our giant filters. These are very deep and filled with layers of different things to stop the floc and anything else floating in the water from getting through. You can actually see some of the floc along the top here on this one. It's that light, fluffy looking stuff.
Now, this is what those layers in the filter actually look like. Just imagine these, but about as tall as your school. To give you an idea, this is actually the side of one of our filters, and if you can see where the pipes are there coming out of the wall, that's the bottom. And all the way up there at the top of the staircase is where the top of the filter is. So they're pretty deep.
Filtration is very important for removing things from the water. Things that are so small you can't even see them. The water may look clean, but let me show you the difference between water that's gone through the filters and water that's come right from the lake.
This device lets us measure how many things are really floating in the water. Here, I've got some water right from the lake. It may look pretty clean, but let's put it in. So a lower number is better. It means there's less things floating in the water. A higher number is worse. So we're pretty high there. Let's see how much is in the water once it's gone through the filters. Now this is some water that's just gone through the filters. Let's put it in and see how much lower it is. Now as you can see, that's much lower than the water straight from the lake.
There are 4 of those filters, and after them, the water is very clean and probably safe, but we have to be absolutely certain. So next comes chlorination. Chlorination is a fancy word that we use for adding chlorine to the water. Chlorine is another very special chemical here that we use for disinfection, which means killing viruses and bacteria. If you've ever been in a swimming pool, you've probably smelt that weird smell that swimming pools seem to have. That smell is actually from the chlorine. Now, we already have some pretty clean water after the filters, and no one's swimming in it yet. So we don't have to add nearly as much chlorine. small amounts of chlorine are added to the water, which then flows into the chlorine contact chambers, which you can see here on this screen, right after the filters. Now, unfortunately, I can't really show you a lot of these tanks because they're closed. You don't usually open them. Now, what the chlorine contact chambers do is they hold the chlorine and the water in there long enough to make sure it's mixed properly and that the chlorine has done its job of killing any bacteria or viruses that might still be in the water. A little bit of that chlorine will also stick around in the water to make sure that it's still safe on the rest of its trip to your tap.
After the contact chambers, the water goes into tanks under this room that we call clear wells. Here it waits until it's sucked up and pushed out by these giant pumps. They send the water up and then down through these pipes. Inside of these are special light bulbs that make UV light. UV light is also made by the sun and is what gives you a sunburn if you don't wear enough sunscreen. Here the UV light is used for a second round of disinfection, as viruses and bacteria don't handle UV light nearly as well as we do and don't usually wear sunscreen.
Now you might already be thinking, well, we already filtered the water and added chlorine to make sure it's safe. Why disinfect a second time? Well, like I said, we have to be absolutely certain that the water is safe before it leaves, which is why we use the UV light here. Then we can confidently say that it is safe. Once the water passes over the UV lights, it then keeps going in the pipe down underground, where it spreads out and forms a grid which goes all over the city. This is where the water filtration plant is. And this is a map of the city with all of the pipes.
These underground pipes take the water everywhere it needs to go, all over the city. So some of it might go to your house, some of it might go to your school, and then some of it, if it's not needed at the time, goes to one of the set of water towers in the city. Now, some of you might have seen these ones. But most of you are probably more familiar with this one. Our water towers are full of safe drinking water. Remember when I said that whatever wasn't needed at the time from the water filtration plant would go to one of our sets of water towers? Well, here it starts to fill up and it actually controls when the water filtration plant runs. So once the water towers are full of drinking water, the water filtration plant will shut down. Then, whenever someone needs water, it will flow out from the water tower, through the pipes, and then to the tap. When the water tower level starts to drop down low enough, the water filtration plant will start back up again, and then run until the water tower is full of water again. That's it for the tour, guys. I hope this helps you understand how the water makes it from the lake to the water filtration plant, water tower, and then to your tap. Thanks for coming along with me.